started. Doesn't that sound so wonderfully professional? Thank you for the computer voice from Zoom. I, of course, am Uncle Pete. I'm Pete. Uncle Pete's in my brain from what else I do. Anytime I'm in front of a camera, that's who I am. I am your membership director here for the McHenry Area Chamber of Commerce. Today we've got a lunch and learn, not loom, unless you guys want to sit a loom. And seriously, there's absolutely nothing in this other than Dr. Pepper. With John Jindra of Quality Tire Service, one of our wonderful chamber members. He's going to be talking with us about vehicle care and maintenance. Now, we will be going ahead and sharing a screen here so that we can follow through with John. But again, if you have any questions during this, or when we get to the part that we were just talking about a little bit before beginning the recording, we'll go ahead and address that. But go ahead and unmute yourselves. You don't have to ask, just unmute yourselves and say who you are and that you have a question. Sometimes when we share on Zoom, share screen of Zoom, we can't actually see your wonderful smiling faces. I'm going to try and make it so that I can, but we'll be doing that here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the share screen, and this is John. We'll go ahead and let him take the floor.
Well, good morning, everyone. John Jindra from Quality Tire Service. Just give you a little bit of background about me and the family that had Quality Tire in the beginning. We are family owned and operated. We were established by my father in 1959. When we were in 1959, we were doing mainly commercial work, heavy trucks, mining equipment, big tires. That's where my dad started with my uncle, and we moved on from there. So we moved out to Spring Grove in 1979. We had a tire retread shop when we first opened. We were making retreads for some of the local, local tire dealers in the Chicagoland area. So then after a while, things evolved through that we started doing repair because we were sending people who needed brakes and front ends to other shops in the area. So we were giving up our customers to them. So we opened up a repair shop about in 1985. We opened up our shop in Spring Grove. We kind of grew it with some of the size of the equipment and trying to do better customer satisfactions and bringing new stuff into the industry. So we moved into our new building. We are owned by my wife, Patty. Does a great job. She keeps me in line, which sometimes can be a little bit of a quest or tough. And then for education, our shop, we're always going to, I belong to Automotive Tech, ATI. They're a company that helps us in our industry to make sure that everything's being done right, taking care of your employees, making sure everything is running smoothly. We're working with them, and all of our technicians, the guys at the counter, everybody goes to classes to make sure that everybody is up on making sure that customer care is correct. Understanding new equipment to understand these new cars today. Technology is gone up in these cars just like it has in all of our hands, phones, everything else. Cars are keeping right up with it. So I got to send the guys out there for that to make sure everybody's right. I personally have a master's degree in automotive management.
Wow.
Yeah, I have probably close to 3,000 hours in training.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a lot of
I didn't know you could even get a degree in that.
Yeah, they're finally bringing it on. It's called AMI, Automotive Management Institute.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you've got your master's in that.
Yes, I do.
That's amazing. That's very cool.
Yeah. So
sorry, I digressed. That was
no, thank
cool.
you. But yeah, it's we're no longer that grease ball. Everybody. I'm saying. Whenever I get so mad, my wife gets so mad. Every time you see in a movie, you see these guys that are mechanics. They're walking around in a one-piece jumpsuit. They got grease up to their elbows. They look, wait, all,
No,
we're all
you've got a nice,
professional.
clean,
Yeah.
branded shirt on with your name on it there and
I mean,
everything, your logo, and your hands are in no way, shape, or form,
No.
greasy or anything like that, So,
But yeah, it's just basically trying to up that feeling in our industry. It's just kind of a deal that kind of goes around with it. And then, of course, all the new equipment we have to get to be able to diagnose your car correctly. I mean, some of you have had that issue where, well, I think maybe it could be, it might be, I'm not sure, that kind of gets scary. I mean, I try to take that as much away as possible. And then, of course, with all the COVID stuff, the touchless drop-off service we have.
how does that? How do you touchlessly drop off
Okay, coming to me. When you walk in the shop, the thing is, you can make your appointment online. You can pay online. When you walk in the shop, you take your envelope, you put your keys in the envelope, drop it in outside.
Okay.
We grab it, we bring it in. We have a sanitizer for your keys. So this is how far we've gone. There's sanitizer for your keys. We drop those in there. So we pull them out, and then we're sanitizing the cars when we're working on it. We're working on gloves.
So, like, if I've got a key fob, I'm guessing the sanitizer is not a wet sort of thing.
No, it's not. It's a light. It's those UV lights.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Close it with the UV light. I mean, we can go as far as anybody wants. I mean, with this COVID, there's a lot of stuff that has changed. With us being an Illinois emissions testing station, also, we have to be coded through Illinois, whatever come on, I'm drawing a blank, CDC and all those rules.
Okay.
We have to be according to those rules as well.
Oh wow.
Because when we're testing, we have to make sure we have the plastic, we have the gloves, we have the face masks, we have, I mean, what's gone, but it's kind of backed off now with the new rules. But we also have customers. People don't want to have some guy getting their cars all grimy and grubby, and try to make everything as clean as you can in the sanitary.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for John at this point before I pop up the next slide here? Nope, everybody's pretty quiet. Okay, here we go. Here's what's next.
Okay, outside vehicle maintenance. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing is with today's cars is the exterior coat. You got to be really careful on some of the stuff we're using, because the outside coatings on some of these cars, it may kind of sound kind of goofy, but if you wash your car, keep it clean, keep the air rolling over it instead of having that dirt on it, gives you better gas mileage. Now, I'm not talking you're going to see a dramatic difference. I mean, but there is a savings because it's just air drag going over the top of the car, just making sure it's clean. The underneath, the stuff that they've been using on the roads, people go, look how great on top of my car is. It's gorgeous. Look at, it's perfect. But you get underneath it, you look at these cars and you go, dude, you're driving this? It's gone. It's melted away. There's nothing there.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, every once in a while, when you go through those car washes, definitely use that deal that sprays underneath the car. You need to give it that wash, unless we were out a bunch of rain, which we haven't. That helps wash the underneath of the car as well. But that even helps, you got to get the grime and the dirt off of them.
Is it okay to, like, I've got a power sprayer at home that I usually wash cars with, but I've never put it up underneath the car.
Get it as far as you can.
I mean, so it's not going to hurt anything or knock anything loose?
Nope, because you're not going to spray any harder than that big, huge puddle you just went through.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I mean, you can go under. I mean, you don't want to be right on top of it, but just kind of give it a quick coat if you can.
Okay.
Even if you got a good spray nozzle on your hose.
Is that okay to do like under the engine bay as well?
No. You don't want to really. Right. You really don't want to heavily coat the engine bay, because now we're getting into the electronics.
Okay. All right. So just underneath, like where the
passenger if you want to go, to the rocker panels, it's between the tires. It's called the rocker panel area. Yeah. If you can squirt underneath there and get as far underneath there as you can, go in the wheel wells with the hard one.
Okay.
Even if you can help yourself, go in the radiator, but The problem sometimes with this is the only thing you can do. If you open the hood, if you really want to clean the car good, is take the hose and spray the hose out the front. You're spraying it from inside out.
Inside out. Okay.
Because if you're
Open
spraying
the hood and the little crack between the hood and like,
there'd be a kind of cowl over where the fan is.
Yeah.
If you can get a hose in there and spray in that area out, because what happens is the bugs are coming this way.
Okay.
So you don't want to spray a hose this way, which pushes the bugs even more.
Yeah, okay.
You spray it this way and it blows it back that way.
Okay. All right.
But now the whole trick is with that. Be careful with that. Those fins are very delicate. So you really don't you can't really go at a hard angle at it, because what you'll do is you'll hit the fins and you'll bend them over.
Ooh.
And if you bend them over, then you're going to lose your cooling.
Okay.
So you got to be really careful.
Very, very careful.
They're very careful when you're spraying that way.
Okay.
And sometimes,
or maybe let someone like you do it.
we could do that.
Yeah.
We do that.
Sorry.
But I mean, that's just some of the things that, exterior wash and wax. I mean, be careful. I mean, just because it's wax, you got to make sure it goes along with the gel coat that's on the outside of the car. Gel coat is that coating that's the last coating that goes on your car is a protectant for the finish itself, because of how some of these finishes are today. So,
Okay.
I mean, be careful
I know I've got a few chips on mine.
yeah, you got to then watch that real careful, because if it starts opening up, they start peeling. You
Yeah.
got to get that taken care of, because that's where moisture gets underneath it. And once moisture gets in it, bang, that coat's coming off, and then that's trouble.
Then you start rusting everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting here.
Okay.
You got check
Yeah,
glass.
check the glass. Want to walk around just looking at your glass. Make sure you got no chips. Make sure it's sealing correctly. Make sure when you roll up the window, it's coming up straight, because that's where a lot of people run into problems when, all of a sudden the air conditioning is not heating correctly. You have, what else do I got written down here? Oh, you also want to wash your windows every once in a while with denatured alcohol.
What's that?
A denatured alcohol is an alcohol that has no, they have lubricants and alcohol. This here is stripped down to nothing. It's like what your grandpa used to drink when you make it. You know what I mean?
I do. I won't tell you why I know what you mean, but I know exactly what
But
you
I mean, it's alcohol with nothing in it.
Okay.
So what you do is when you use this alcohol, make sure it's on a good rag, a good like terry cloth rag, or what they call those new ones, fleeces. I mean, all this stuff, anything that absorbs very well, but it's soft to the glass. You put the denatured alcohol on it and you go over the whole window. Because what it's doing, cars, when you're following behind somebody, they could be leaking oil. And that spray could be coming, I mean, you're talking microns, you're talking very small particles, but you get the film from, stuff that's coming off of the ground. That's that hole you splashed through. Who knows what that was?
Yeah.
All the road grime.
Yeah.
Because regular Windex is pretty much, a lot of it is, these window cleaners are a lot of denatured alcohol, but you want to get 100% denatured alcohol. Just wipe the whole window. Make sure you go over your wiper blades. Make sure there's no, because that grime on the window goes right on the blades. And most of the time when you do that, you got streaks all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's that grime that's coming off that's getting on the window.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, because I have very streaky blades.
Yeah. Well,
And I often, though, when my blades get really streaky, I just replace the blades. I've never.
Well, you can, I mean, you can clean them.
Yeah.
I mean, we got cleaners at the shop that I just give away. I mean, you just use it. It's a real scrub thing. You just go right down the blade and it takes off all the hairs and stuff.
Huh.
And it gives you a sharp edge again.
Okay.
But most of the time, if you have it streaky, is sometimes you've hit a bug and the bug's whatever it is on the blade.
Yeah.
Find out real quick, just take your blade away from the windshield and take your finger and just go right down the edge of the blade. Just go up and down the blade. If your finger catches on anything, or it feels weird, or if the blade is really either one, it's really hard. I mean, you can't move it. The blade, they're oxidized. You have to replace those.
All right.
or check to make sure they're not torn.
Yeah.
Or if they're really soft, I mean, sometimes you get a really mushy one,
Yeah.
and that, then that doesn't do a job
Doesn't do
either.
any
So
good.
you always want to be checking wiper blades, make sure you want to get those done.
Okay. Awesome.
Check lights, and of course, including bulbs. I mean, some people they think the flasher is a light. I mean, sorry, a reflector is a light. So you want to make sure that whatever you're looking at is what you're looking at, I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, you're going to take that trip to grandma's house or wherever you're going to take
Yeah.
a trip to, take 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Have somebody, as you're sitting in that car, moving all the way, moving all the flashers, turn signals, brakes, headlights. Just have somebody walk around the car real quick before you leave on that trip, just to make sure that everything's working. I mean, a couple seconds.
That's a good idea.
I mean, do it a
Now,
couple
while
days
we're
before, but
talking about lights, what about, all these amazing, wonderful Nissan owners listening today? Because I'm one of them too. What about those daytime running lights that are usually like in this little weird
go
line
down in the
now
bottom.
that, well, like they're it's like a line of LED lights. What happens if those are those replaceable, or how do those? Yeah, I've never replaced one, and I don't know if that's a hard thing to do, if it's an easy thing to do.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, because here, just to give you an idea, I had a customer come in a couple days ago, whatever it was. Comes in, has a new Chevy pickup truck.
Uh-huh.
New Chevy pickup trucks have the LED on the outside of their tail light.
Yeah.
He had one of them out.
Mm.
$1,100.
Holy.
Yeah, because the light is the whole. This is what they're doing with cars today. That used to be just replaceable. Now it's coming in units. I mean, this bulb burns out, the whole unit has to be replaced. They're just building all these things in complete capsules.
So you have to buy the entire assembly, the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, who thought that was a good idea? You should just buy the light bulb.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right. We had put it this way. We had a lady come in the other day. She had headlight out. She came in an Infinity. Okay. So she comes in, she goes, I need that headlight replaced. And I says, okay. Are you leaving that with us? And she goes, what do you mean? I have to leave it? I says, yes, it's going to take me 6 hours to replace that headlight.
6 hours? What the heck?
What they're doing with cars today, a lot of the cars are built modular. So they get the best gas mileage. There's no longer seams. Look at a lot of the new cars. There's no seams. There's no place for air to get in. Any place there's an air spot, there's a possibility of a seal that's keeping air from getting in, because it's air pressure. It's where they're picking up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what's happening, they build this bumper on this Infinity as one piece. So the only way you can get at the headlight, because the headlight is behind this piece, you got to take this whole piece off the front of the car to replace the headlight.
What the heck ever happened to just popping the hood and reaching in behind?
And that was an $1,100 headlight.
That's insane.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Headlight.
Joe has a question here. Joe Dietz has a question.
John, don't you have a special service that can take that film off your headlights? That as the car gets older, there's a film develops all sorts of ways to get it off. I've tried all sorts of things, and I believe you have a pretty good solution.
Yeah, that's the cleaning solution that we have. It actually, when we're doing when we're doing the headlight cleaning, there's a tool we have. It's almost like a buffer. What we're actually doing is there's two different, when those front lights are hazed out or dimmed out or whatever, however you want to call it, there's an inside and then there's an outside. You burn the inside of the plastic or you burn the outside of the plastic. If the inside of the headlight is burnt, the plastic from sometimes people put wrong bulbs in them, produces too much heat. It scorches the inside of the plastic, or sometimes moisture gets, there's a number of different things. But if it's inside scorched or inside dazed or however you want it, smoked, can't do anything with it. But if it has the problem on the outside of the plastic, it can be fixed. I mean, you just got to get the right stuff. I mean, probably over the last, I don't know, 10 years, we've probably gone through 20, 30, 40 different chemicals because everybody walks in with a hocus pocus that says this works. And most of the time, it works the first couple hours and then it's gone. So you got to really be careful on where that headlight is smoked. Is it on the inside or the outside? And 85 to 90% of the time, we can get the outside clean.
Wow. Now, what about door seals? You have that noted.
Oh, door seals. Yes. That's another part that a lot of people kind of don't forget about. When you're cleaning your car, really make sure we're seeing a lot of right now is torn air noise. People are saying, man, I'm hearing this. What's this noise? What's this? Will they check this? Will they check this? We can't find it. Well, it's the door seal. These cars, because these cars have, such tight tolerances today. I mean, it's really what goes along with cleaning the car. It's just hit the door seal, but buy yourself a can of silicone spray. Make sure
like
you
WD-40 or something.
no,
like, no,
not the WD. It's a silicone spray. WD has got a chemical in it that's what it's designed for. It's designed to eat in.
Oh,
you don't want it to eat into that rubber. You just basically want to coat it. So you get silicone spray. You can buy silicone spray anywhere.
So because I get like it's garage door, like for the rollers and stuff.
Well, that's
depends
on that's a different. It may have the emollients in there for the bearings. This here, you're just looking for a seal.
Just a seal, just a flat silicone.
Well, yeah,
spray.
it's silicone spray. Just something like that. You hit it with the seal. You wipe your door jams off and your seals off, and then you're going to find out your doors are going to work easier, which takes pressure off the hinges and the locks because it's now sliding like it's supposed to instead of dragging.
Okay.
And then you keep those soft and way they're supposed to work. You get better air conditioning, get better heating.
Wow.
Yeah, because the air is not escaping anywhere around the edges of the doors.
All right. That makes sense.
Sometimes if people close their doors and they're like, man, I got a cold spot back here. Well,
yeah.
If you did that, you check that door seal, I guarantee you that's your cold spot.
Yeah, no, I used to have a Chrysler 300. I loved that car. Really did. It's like driving a living room down. I mean, I used to do Cadillacs all the time, but that 300 I really, really liked. But after a while, it did get really noisy, and it did have like a cold spot coming in the rear passenger door, and like, holy cow, this thing is just like really loud. But that never even occurred to me. So, okay, let's go move on here, and let's go down to the next one. And we're at under the hood, which is where I no longer like to go on new cars. I used to, and I'm going to let you get back to this real quick.
That's
here.
fine.
My very first car was a 76 Chevy Vega. My dad handed me the carburetor and said, if you can make it run, it's yours. And I did. So it was a nice Codsworth Chevy Vega, but
there you go.
I have fun now. I wouldn't
even. Codsworth Vega now?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I don't.
Money.
I wish. Yeah, I wish. No, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But no, now, I mean, I popped the hood on that little Nissan, and I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's scary.
Anyway, let you go.
Okay. Real quick, when you open the hood of these new cars, things that they're helping us and you to make sure we got so many different fluids. I have on there sticker colors. The trick is on most of these cars today, they have different color handles on the trans, whatever. Power steering, they actually have a picture on the top. I mean, all the different, and then on the side of the fender, look, there's maybe a tag, and the tag will say yellow. trans fluid, blue, power steering. And that'll give you an idea on where or what fluids are what. And then another thing you got to really be careful with is the types of the fluid. Sometimes we're running into some of the new imports have their specific fluid, which could run into problems. We've had customers mistakenly put the wrong fluid in. I mean, it's just basically flush out what you had put in, put the correct stuff in, and away you go. I mean, it's not going to really destroy it right now. It helps it wear out quicker because all the viscosity, they call it viscosities or packages that make this stuff work correctly create the pressures you need for the steering to move correctly. That's why some of them have their own specific fluid. So that's a thing they want to do. I got written down here, sometimes the different fluids such as power steering, trans coolant have different colors for handles as well as the fluid itself. I know some people don't like to do it, but if you take that stick out, you just look at it, you can pull it out. The mace should be a little drop. You can put it on your finger, you can put it on a piece of paper to get the color of the fluid and make sure the color of the fluid, if you're not sure, is I think Toyotas, I can't remember, but they have their own specific fluid. So if you take it out, you drop it down and it's pink, and you drop it down and it's orange, or it's yellow, or it's blue, nope, that don't go in there.
Okay.
So always make sure that if you're unsure, it's an easy, quick test. Just take the drop and just put it on a piece of paper and you can see the color of the fluid. And that would, make sure at least you're matching it up if you have a specific fluid. Most everybody runs a universal fluid. All these universal fluids that are out there, you can mix it and not really run into problems.
Okay.
So
just like common transmission fluid,
right,
and brake fluid, and as long as it's just is what it is.
Right.
Power steering fluid, you're putting it in the right place, but you don't really have to buy that. Like you don't have to buy like Nissan power steering fluid or anything like that.
No, the only guys that run into problems with that is Jag, Mercedes, BMW.
I own a Jag. I love that car so much, but I don't own a Jag anymore, and I probably never will again because there absolutely nothing was inexpensive to fix on that car.
No, because that's a I still remember that old commercial, pay me now or pay me later. It's it happens. You got to pay attention that when these fluids are starting to go bad, you need to flush them. You need to clean them. A lot of people, I never done that before. Well, you're not expecting your car to go 300,000 miles.
Yeah.
I remember when my dad, we had an old Chrysler station wagon. Johnny, come on, we're going in the car. We're going to take a ride. Why? Because we got to turn 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
It was a big deal to get 100,000 miles out of a car. It was a big deal to get 15,000 miles out of a set of tires.
Oh, my dad,
wow.
He was not thrilled until, and he wouldn't really talk about it until he was over 200,000 miles in the car. And I mean, he drove all over the country. Right. And he got up to 380,000, I think was his highest mileage in a car, and it was a Buick that he had. I don't think he ever got that high again.
Oh, the Dodge I'm driving right now, that's got almost 360.
Oh wow, you're catching up.
And then my wife's truck that my daughter's now driving has got over 300 on it.
Wow.
It's just maintenance. Just make sure everything's fixed. The fluids are changed. It makes a big difference.
And again, I digress. Now talking about jumping a vehicle, Joe's got a question. Joe, go ahead.
On fluids, John, transmission fluid. You hear all sorts of things after 100,000 miles. Don't even think about changing the trans oil. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, with all the new manufacturers, all the new cars, everything that's coming out today, the old number used to be 50,000 miles. I know a lot of you out there with, you go and you hear 50,000 miles, you got 50,000. That norm is now gone. The norm now is between 80 to 100,000 miles is the new norm.
Oh, wow.
Transmission fluid. depending on, let's just go there. If it's a normal everyday driver car around town, I mean, I don't see a problem with if you're in that 100,000 mile area, doing a full flush. You know, get all the fluid out of the torque converter, the transmission, the coolers, the cooler lines, everything. Get as much fresh fluid as you can because you're still new enough. Once you start hitting into, depending on the vehicle, how it's used, 120 to 150,000 mile. Sometimes I shy away from going for the full flush into what you drop the pan, you get the pan down, you change the filter, you take a look and see if there's anything in the bottom of the pan. You're getting as much fluid as you can out doing it that way. And if you're doing the drop pan gasket, if you can, some of these transmissions now are sealed to where you can't do that anymore.
Really?
It's just basically, it's what we call spill and fill.
Huh.
I mean, it's you pull this plug out, you let as much out as you can, and then you just fill it right back up on the top until it's full. So that's the only thing you can do on. And that's still good enough because when a transmission is used, depending on how it's used, heat is an enemy of a transmission.
Okay.
Like when you tow, you're making sure, you know, the car tows the right amount. Spinning your tires in the winter, it kills it.
Really?
You know, oh yeah. I mean, it's just pure torque, and then all of a sudden you hit the dry and it goes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's owie.
Huh.
So I mean, it's Joe, to answer your question, it's, you know, it comes down to if you feel comfortable. I mean, if the car was driven around, you knew you were driving it, it was strictly in town. I mean, running back and forth here and there. I mean, 150,000 miles, yeah, I would change the fluid.
Okay.
And then, you know, beyond that, then it goes into basically, you know, I've seen guys stick a siphon hose down the transmission fill tube and pull as much as they can out through the fill tube. There's so many different things out there, but yes, changing that fluid is definitely a positive to the life of that transmission.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now jumping a vehicle.
Okay, jump in a vehicle. You can always, everybody, with these new cars, let's just start there. With these new cars, that little spark that you saw could cause you $1,000, $2,000. Because that spark, depending on how it's filtered and where it goes and what fuse it goes through and what panel it goes through, hits those computers, those microprocessors. That's the scary thing. So yeah, you can still jump the new cars. You just got to be really careful on how you do it. So basically what you want to do is what you're doing is you're hooking up your positives first. You're going from the dead to the running car. So because you got dead.
You do dead first?
Yep. Because when you hook to the car, that spark has a place it's going.
Gotcha. Okay. All
so the other way you can there's this theory. Some guys say this, some guys say that, you know, but according to the books and the stuff I have read, it's positive on the negative on the car, on the dead, and then go positive to the running. Because when you spark, you're not actually, it's actually has a place to travel because now you're putting the wire on, you know.
Got it. Okay.
Or whatever's the easiest for you to do. I mean, but you just got to make sure when you're going down, you're not jiggle juggling. You're going down and you're attaching it.
Got it. Okay. And then negative to negative.
Well, then you go from negative off the running car.
Okay.
Okay.
So you go
negative on the running car.
Okay.
Then you're finding a frame. You're finding a bolt. You're finding a structure. You're not going to the battery. You're going to the car itself.
You don't put it on the battery?
No, because what it does is when you go to the battery, you go to the vehicle, you're using the vehicle as an isolator to the battery. So you're not causing that shock possibly into the battery,
Oh,
because you're using the grounds of the car, you're using the grounds of all the electric. You just need to make sure when you look around, because if you look at the newer cars, if you open the hood, some of the batteries are accessible, some are not. You have if you notice, if you look underneath your car, there'll be a post. It's a bat. There's a big red plastic thing over the top of it. If it's got one of those, 9 times out of 10, it's got another one that says neg.
Hmm.
And that's your negative post that you can hook your jumper cables to
oh, wow.
on some of these new cars. So look for that first. Look for those 2 posts to be able to go onto for that jumper.
Okay.
Because then you're going through the isolators, you're not possibly going to hit that computer that you're going after.
Wow. All right. That's good to know.
And then just make
I mean, I
sure.
haven't jumped a car in quite a while.
Right.
You know, my middle son has called and asked, and I just told him how to do it based on what I grew up with, which was my dad just showed me, okay, here, positive on positive, and then you go do positive on negative. He always did it from the car that was running,
Yeah, to the
and
dead
then,
one.
you know, to the dead one, and just put positive, negative, and then put it on the battery. He didn't
Right.
put it on the frame.
Right.
And then wait a bit, and then turn it over, see if it's ready. No, wait a bit more.
Well, you gotta wait for it you gotta wait for
yeah.
the battery to regenerate a little
Yeah.
bit. That's another problem a lot of people do. As soon as they get the car started, they're ripping the cables off. No, don't do that.
Oh,
Let
no.
them sit there you're not hurting it,
No, okay,
because what's happening now is both alternators are working
yeah,
to try to bring that battery back to life. So because the
Oh.
problem that you have is once you have the car started and you're pulling the jumper cables off, you are just now on a dead battery. You're now relying on the alternator alone to run the car and to charge the battery.
Ah,
Because now the thing is, the battery is drawn down so far, it's trying to bring that battery back to life. So now the first thing people do is they get in the car, oh, it's running, pull the headlights on, turn my radio on, oh, I need the blower on.
yeah.
Whoa,
Whoa, wait a minute. Don't do all
no.
that. Okay.
no, sit there.
So how long would you leave it? Maybe like 5-10 minutes or something like that? Or-
First thing is you put your foot on the gas pedal and you bring the idle up on. You want to bring the RPMs up on the car for like.
the one that was dead?
Yep. You
Okay.
got to bring it up, because once you bring the RPMs up, you light the alternator. We call it light the alternator, or ignite the alternator, make the alternator
Make it
work.
Okay.
Because most of the time the alternator is just spinning there. It's just a motor spinning. And then when all of a sudden the regulator goes, I need juice, it starts the field move working and
Hmm.
makes electric.
Oh,
So until that
I
regulator
just
comes
assumed
on,
that when the alternator was turning, it was working.
no, it's on, off, only when it's needed.
I didn't know that. Oh,
So when you're jumping a car, just, I know everybody wants to rip and go because you're started, but give yourself a couple minutes. You can sit, either have, the gauge, you can watch where the gauge is,
Yeah.
if it's charging or not charging. If it's not pegged and it's starting to come off a little bit, you're good.
okay.
A couple minutes, just give yourself a couple minutes.
All right. Anybody other than me have any questions? Because you've obviously been jumping a car the wrong way like a moron for the last 40 years. So, no. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward here. Under the hood, continued.
Oh, one thing I have to say, would go back to jumping into the car. I just said I seen one of my notes here. Today's cars, the old cars used to come red positive, black negative. Today's cars are coming out strictly, we're finding a lot black.
What?
Yes, don't ask me why, but we've run into this situation where it's black. Always look at the top of the battery. Make sure you're going to negative, positive. Always look at that before you hook up.
Look for the plus minus.
Correct.
Are they still at least plus minus?
Yes,
Okay.
they have not gotten away from that. There's definitely a plus and a minus in the top of the battery.
Okay. All right.
So make
Cool.
sure you're matching that.
All right. Extended maintenance. Under the hood, continued.
Okay, like we were talking about before, why flush? I know everybody that goes into your dealers, other repair shops, everywhere walk out and go, you know, you really need to do. Well, in some sense, that's absolutely true. Because the problem you run into with the fluids, you know, your power steering, your brakes, transmission, coolant, like I have listed there, each one has their own little things that go around with them. Brake fluid. This last bit of moisture we had, how humid it is.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, every brake system out there almost has to get flushed. Because brake fluid loves moisture. It's whenever it can get near moisture, it sucks it up.
Wow.
And the problem we have with moisture being in the brake fluid, the moisture goes down, goes to the master cylinder, goes to your ABS controllers. It goes into all the pistons in the braking system itself. Brake lines. Thank God they've been coming out with better material built brake lines, because that moisture, it's rust. And where's the worst place to have it is on all those parts that need to move. And some of them are very small parts. So all you got to do is get a little bit of rust on those. Plus another thing is water versus brake fluid. Water will compress further than brake fluid will. You can compress, it seems weird, both liquid, but brake fluid is a much denser fluid than water. So you can crush water further than you can crush brake fluid. And then another problem that you have is water turns into steam, will evaporate with heat. I don't care under what pressure. It gets to that one point, it will boil. It turns into steam. And then again, that takes away from brake pressure. I mean, we're talking micro little things, but I mean, that thing is, we go from, man, my brake pedal used to be here. Now it's here. Well, two things. It's either you got moisture in your brakes, brake pads are worn, master cylinder has gotten a little weak. I mean, it all wears. I mean, having pressure on things all the time wears everything. So it just, that happens.
We had to replace the master. My wife has a 2015 Camaro, and had to replace the master cylinder on that. Beginning, it's got less than 40,000 miles on it, and but it just was like, I mean, it would stop, but
not very well.
You know, you didn't really feel good about it.
No.
So,
well, it's just like with the power steering fluid. Ever hear get it behind somebody or in somebody in the parking lot and hear,
yeah, you hear that squeal. Yeah.
Well, it's because the power steering fluid is so dirty or so old, it caused the pump to wear out. So the screaming is the pump.
Okay.
So again, that's, you know, not keeping up with the fluids. It's just things wear out.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at people, why did you change your oil? Well, I have to change my oil.
Yeah.
Well, why do you have to change your oil? Because it gets dirty.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you do that with your transmission?
Yeah, people just don't think about it.
It's just trying to keep, well, it's, you know, when people walk into my shop and they go, well, you know, it just doesn't act like it did when it was new. Huh?
Well, that's because now it's old.
Oh, it's got a few thousand miles on it, you know, things wear out.
Yeah. Now, what about belts and hoses? Because that's one thing that I have been bad in the past, especially older cars I've had, and I love older cars, but you know, you don't realize that those belts and hoses, what you don't see is seems like the bad part. Like,
well, I mean, the whole thing is with, okay, belts and hoses. Now you're kind of relying on your repair center, unless you, here, a belt. Hey, you got a bad belt. Show me where the belt is. If you look at the belt has to flex both ways to go over inner and outer pulleys. Okay. So if this belt is the pulley is underneath here, you can't see this side here. This is the side that's wearing out, because that's traction side of the belt. Okay. This side here, it can be as polished as what happened.
Okay.
Which is not good, because there's no traction to the belt that it goes around, the pulley that goes around when it's smooth. Because you have smooth belts, smooth pulleys, and groove pulleys.
Okay.
Okay. The smooth pulleys are just what we call a transfer pulley. It's just something the belt can roll on to go down here. But then you have the traction pulleys, or the pulleys that spin your alternator, your water pump, your power steering fluid. It's actually got the grooves in it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So look at a pulley that you don't see the polish side. Well, you want to look at the polish side too to make sure it's not really worn off really bad. High polished isn't really bad. It's just you want to make sure there's no really heavily worn spots in it. But when you look at the other side where the grooves are, when you're looking at the grooves, you want to make sure there's no cracking. There's no continuous cracking. You'll get a couple cracks here, a couple cracks there, but the cracking that goes from one side of the belt to the other is really or pieces that are chunked out of that belt. You want to make sure that belt does not have any of that, because when you have that cracking and those chunks that peel out of that belt, of course, now next thing you know, you're on the side of the road because you have no lights, you have no power steering, you have no brakes because your belt's gone. And you don't have any pressure to keep all that stuff working correctly.
Now, what about, is there a way to check your hoses before it just goes?
Okay, well, how we look at them, you guys can look at them the same way. When you're looking at the hose, you just want to it just wants to be consistent. The hose just has that same size, has that same look from one end to the other.
Okay.
You don't want no like bubbles in them. You don't want no heavy cracks in them. You don't want any of that stuff in the main hose itself. When you get down to where the hose clamp goes onto the outlet, when we put the hose clamp on it, right after that hose clamp, and then it starts the hose, most of the time the hose fails after the hose clamp. Because what it is you're restricting the hose here, and this part of the hose is trying to stretch out because of the pressure that's there. So this area right here in that hose is where it almost always fails. So just take your hand, you have the hose and you just kind of squish down the hose. If it feels consistent all the way up to the hose clamp, and you don't feel no real soft spots,
okay,
the hose is fine.
All right.
But you got to be careful. Some of these hoses will have a spring inside of them to give that hose that structure it needs, because it may be on the intake, which is the side we're drawing from, because the water's got to circulate through the car.
Right.
So we're drawing out, so that hose has got to be strong so it can pull that pressure. So sometimes there's hoses with springs in them. So just be careful that you're not feeling a spring inside the hose.
Okay. All right.
So
is there a particular life on a hose? Like,
well,
how often should you get those? Should you be worried about those?
Well, most of the guys, it's coming around. If you're doing belts, you're doing hoses, just like old time.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a bed belt, better be checking that hose, because it's basically got
about the same
about
age.
the same age, same look.
Okay.
Belts and hoses kind of come along together, but we've seen the hoses lasting longer because there's more hoses built with the new materials, like the silicones, or they got some hoses out there that they're almost indestructible.
Oh, wow.
But it's not plastic. They have to be able to move, but they need that structure and that piece. But,
okay. Anybody have any questions on belts and hoses before we move on? Nope. Okay. Oh, Joe, got to unmute yourself. Oh, you still can't hear you, Joe. You got to unmute. Never mind. Okay. All right.
Okay. No problem, Joe.
All right. We'll come back.
Type it in if you can.
Yeah, you can type it in the chat, because we'll catch chats here. It's about 12:43. We got about 15 minutes here, and I know we want to save a little bit of time for some Q&A, and we've still got a handful more slides. So we've been chatting like crazy here, but this is all great stuff. So, and I do want John to share a couple other things. But checking tires, this is tires drive me friggin' nuts. And I'm going to let you go through this, and then I actually have a couple of questions about tires myself. So, but go right on ahead.
Okay, checking tires. Been doing tires my whole life. They're black round and they roll to me. There isn't anything there. It's just basically where it comes down to get the best out of your tires is to keep the maintenance on them. Make sure you're checking the air pressure. Make sure you're looking at the alignment on them. Make sure that everything is correct. I mean, that's the biggest thing as far as tire life, where it comes from. Like I got here, easiest way to check tires on the front, turn, park in a parking spot, turn the tires one way or another. That exposes the tire to your eyes. You can look at the face of the tire. When you're looking at the face of the tire, you can actually see, hey, look at the tire. What I look at is when I'm looking at the face of the tires, you can see the ones that are in the pictures. See how nice and gray they are all the way across the tire? When they're nice and gray like that, all the way across the tire, they're all looking, all those tread blocks are all looking pretty much the same way. When you have a car that's misaligned, you'll have one of the outside edges turn into a solid roll. If that is turning into a solid roll, you know that side is wearing more than the other. If you have a tire that's wearing on both sides, that's telling you I don't have enough air pressure. The same thing with wearing in the center. I have too much air pressure. So by just looking at your tires can give you a pretty good idea, number one, on air pressure. Number two, the thing is, if you have a bad front end part or something's bad on the suspension of the car, those blocks will turn into dark and light, dark and light, dark and light. If you see a dark light, you know you have a tire that is not staying on the ground. It's actually bouncing. So if you have that, that's also telling you you have a bad part or suspension piece that is causing a tire wear problem. I had was really funny. I saw a survey by the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association. They put a survey out to all the licensed drivers, and they came up with, which is really wild to me, was when most people went on a trip, 73% went by themselves. Half of them planned to drive on vacation, and 70% of them not even checked the air in their tires.
Wow.
Okay. So, and then they had the survey beyond. This just shows you the knowledge of what's a real important thing. It's the only 4 things that keeps your safe butt on the ground is your tires. I don't care how good your brakes are. I don't care how good your air conditioning is. If your tires aren't any good, you're not safe in the car.
No.
You know, so they also had come up with here was 48% of the drivers didn't even know how to check the air pressure in their tires.
Really?
Yes, 48%. 3% of them believe they didn't have to check the air in their tires for the life of the tire.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I ever learned. My dad taught me. That was the first thing I ever learned, was to check the air in the tires.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the best place to find your air pressure that you need on your car is when you open up the door, the driver's door. When you open up the driver's door, on the inside of the driver's door, on the pillar, on the right-hand side, usually is a black yellow tag that says vehicle air pressures.
Mm-hmm.
That tag will give you the air pressures that need to be in that tire, front and back, at a weight load that vehicle can handle. So it's going to give you, hey, can this car tow this? Can this car tow this trailer? You open that door and you look at that tag, and that you know the weight of that trailer and what you have. You know if the car can pull it or not.
That's really, because that's part of one of my questions is, okay, because I've been told different things by different people. On the end, that little sticker on the inside of your door, to me, I've always looked at that and go, okay, that's where my pressure needs to be.
Correct.
And some people have said, no, that's the suggested minimum pressure.
No.
We want to put your tire pressure about 4 to 5 pounds higher. Is that?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right.
Because what that tag is telling you, since 2005, the TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system,
Yeah.
has been put on cars.
Yeah, which I
It's
have in
a
mind.
goofy looking tire with the exclamation point in the middle of it. So that system, each one of those sensors, there's a small computer in each one of your tires
Mhm.
that sends the heat, how hot that tire is, what air pressure it is, what revolutions it's spinning, sending that information to the computer itself. So that TPMS sensor has a positive, negative amount of air you can have on it where it still accepts what it is. It's usually anywhere from 1 to 5 pounds high or low that could be off of that pressure. If it's more than that, the problem that you run into is that the light comes on your dash.
Yeah.
The car, it uses that air pressure, it's not just the air pressure in the tire. A lot of the car's computers are running off of that rotation as what they run through some of the computers. So they know at 35 pounds of air, this tire is at this type of circumference. So, and we get the best fuel mileage, the transmission works the best. So you want to be in that area of that air pressure that's on that. You want to be, if it says 35, you put 35.
You put 35.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
don't go over, just put what it says.
What it
on there.
says, that's what you need to have.
See, I've had that argument like crazy with a few people, and even at a shop, not your shop, at a shop where I said, leave that tire alone, it's fine, it doesn't need air. And they said, no, I checked it and it needs to be the same as all your others, and we put them about 3 to 5 pounds over what it says on your door. I'm like, yeah, don't do that. I don't think you're supposed to do that. No, that's what we do.
No.
Whatever. So at any rate, and then the other question is that I have, and you can, and if anybody else has questions, because I'm enjoying this conversation. This is wonderful for me because I'll talk cars all day long, every day. You give me the chance to do it. But when you buy, did somebody have a question?
Yeah, well, it's actually a statement.
Okay.
When my husband and I first started going away on trips and so forth, and we were with a specific mechanic, and, we had something happen to the car and he fixed it. And he said, we said, well, we're going to be leaving on vacation. He said, before you leave on vacation, bring your car in because I want to check it from head to toe, make sure that the battery is good, that the everything in the car, and we'll check your tires to make sure that while you're on the road, something doesn't go wrong.
Yeah.
And we have done that consistently. And I was like, we've never had a problem with the car, but they would find something and said, you don't need to change it now, but when you come back, you need to change it.
Yeah.
So
It's a good thing, Denise. It works out very well.
Now, my other question, I'm going to forward the slide here because we've talked about everything, and we're actually already at 12:53. And I know you actually want to share something with everybody about them coming to visit you after this in your shop, right?
Sure.
So, but on buying new tires, because I bought tires, I've done the full set at times. I've replaced a single tire at times. But what I have been told, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if you're not buying all four, you want the best tires, the brand new tires on the back, even if you've got front wheel drive or all wheel drive. Always put the new tires on the back. Is there any truth to that? There's somebody just blowing smoke so far at me.
You were in a very delicate area with me right now.
Okay.
I have gone crazy over this because I have been brought up in old theory. This is new theory that has come across.
Okay.
If you go into anybody who's accepting or understanding or being taught the new theory because of new tires on the back, I still have a different mind on that. I'm still putting new tires on the front. I've gone through driving schools. My whole situation is, okay, everybody that's driven your car, okay, when you're driving and it does this, we all know how to fix this. Take my foot off the gas, do this changing. That's what I've driven race cars, and
Yeah.
we call that a loose feeling. When somebody says it feels loose, is the back is going all over everywhere.
Right.
The scariest one that I hate is what we call a push. When you hit on the brakes and it does absolutely nothing and you're going directly at that pole, that's a push. You can't change that. My thinking, I've had many hours of discussion with the designers and engineers over this, but I look at them and I go, okay, here's the deal, dude. Got brand new tires. Am I stopping? Because now I'm hitting my brakes and the weight's transferring to the front. It's coming off the back. I got the weight of the motor. Now we have front wheel drive cars. I got all my traction. I have all my factors that it needs to be is on the nose where it needs to be. Why am I putting back here? Well, if it's loose, we find people that have no problems with the back end washing out. Well, but you can't steer it, can't stop it. You know what I was told by a couple engineers?
What?
Why did you sell those people just 4 tires, 2 tires? You should have sold those people 4 tires. So I still, if you come into my store, I'll put the new tire. I still put new tires on the front. But teachings today, yes, it's put the new tires on the rear.
Okay. Well, I was of your opinion because again, my dad taught me the same thing. Always put new tires on the front because that's where everybody, he said almost everything you said. He was not a mechanic. He was a printer. You know, that's just what he said. Denise makes a note. She has to leave at 1. And Chris Knoll asked, do you work on classic cars mechanically?
Yes.
By the way, yes. So if you've got a classic car and you need some work done on it, definitely contact John. John, I know we didn't get all the way through this, but we're actually at 12:56. And I know that your wife mentioned that we do want to share, and you did want to share that for everybody who participated in this today, if you go visit John at his shop, which is at, 2420 Hiller Ridge in Johnsburg, 2420 Hiller Ridge, Johnsburg, Illinois, 60051. If you got to pop it into your GPS there, that you'll actually have a goodie bag for everybody.
Yeah, we're putting goodie bags together right now for them.
Awesome. That's amazing. So, and again, since we've got 3 minutes left here, and I know people have to go and run, do any of you have any other questions? Another quick question for John before we let him go and let you guys actually go and do the rest of your day? Anybody have any other quick questions?
Yes,
I do. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, this is Jeff Peavy, and John, I just wanted to commend you and stress to everyone in the audience that having the AM Masters with the Automotive Management Institute and then training with the Automotive Training Institute with ATI is very commendable. What I think most people don't recognize is that more than half of those that do automotive aftermarket repair are not, they don't train, they don't keep their technicians up, and they don't keep their equipment up. So that makes you very unique. And in fact, having a little inside knowledge about Automotive Management Institute, the 3,000 credit hours that you have puts you in the top 5% of the nation with AMI. And so,
Thank you.
So
Well,
I don't think a lot of people appreciate that. And I was just recently, I'm no longer the president of AMI, but I know that,
okay,
and
cool.
I have a great respect for that. I have the AM also. So
Okay, cool.
kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's been a long ride. I mean, for all the bumper to bumper conferences we go to, everywhere you guys had any of those forms you filled out at the end of the class, I filled out. And you don't realize all of a sudden next time I get this notification, I did what?
Yeah.
But it did take me probably 8 to 10 years to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it
It takes a long time.
Yeah, it was an 8 to 10 year deal. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, some of the instructors were interesting. I mean, you get so many different point of views. It's like,
Yeah.
they're like, dude, what are you talking about? You know, and it's like, it's funny. But I mean,
Yeah. Well,
it's
it's a
great
big deal. And I know a lot of people don't don't realize it, but it's a big deal. It
Oh,
makes
I
you
didn't
different
realize-
and better than
Yeah,
everybody else.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was that high up in the list. I did, but thank you for informing me.
You are.
Really cool. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's you don't realize it. You know, it's when I send my guys to class, it's like I'm be sitting right there next to you. You know, some of my guys, these guys went through breaks. These guys went through this. These guys go through that. And I just haven't some of the class. To be honest with you, right now, some of these classes I sat in, I'm going, what am I sitting here for? Because it's like, wow, these guys are talking about test tools and this and that and this and it's amazing to see what our field is like.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you train and you train your technicians, everybody should recognize that, appreciate that, and trust you for it. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's, it's a bugger trying to get these guys to sit in class, your butt's been in the shop for 8 to 10 hours already. And now I got to go sit in this hotel room for another 3 hours. What are you, goofy? I'm like, no, we'll make sure we have a couple beers. We'll sit in the back of the room. We'll have a couple beers and we'll relax. They're feeding us, but always when we came out of those classes, we were always coming out with something.
Oh yeah.
And if you didn't pick up something out of those classes, it was a lot of fun, but a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, and again, one more time, if you want to reach John at Quality Tire Service, they're 2420 Hiller Ridge, Johnsburg, Illinois, 60051. And his number is 815-344-2573. Again, that's 815-344-2573. And I'm going to go ahead and I am actually going to stop recording.